continent, thousands of young Africans set out each year in search for quality education, better career prospects, job opportunities, and opportunities to contribute to a globalized world. And this journey always has challenges, from financial and visa barriers to the cultural and emotional adjustments of living abroad. And this is a discussion we'll be having today, shared with the experts in the panel. So today we are going to have a discussion and reflect on these realities, because these conversations about studying abroad, about our dreams, and about resilience and working or studying in systems that shape the mobility and solidarity that is needed amongst young people. So in the next 1 hour, you will hear directly from experts, education experts, youth leaders, and student migrants who've both lived these experiences and share policy perspectives of different places that they have been in. And together we are going to unpack this, see what works, what doesn't work, and how we can collaborate to make places that do not work. And so I hope that we be able to leave this meeting today, or this conversation today, be able to be good mentors, good advocates, and good representatives of the continent, and also be part of the brains that strengthen Africa's role in global education. So with that, let's dive straight into the introduction of our panelists. And I have diverse panelists over here, and I'm going to introduce all of them. I think I should do that probably after the introduction from Peter, just before we start the presentation. So Peter, I hand it over to you. Is Peter joining us today?
So the Secretary General is not available at the moment, but he has designated Bismarck, who is our Chief Technical Officer. So Bismarck, I think he's having a little difficulty joining, but he joins shortly, and then he would give the opening remark on behalf of the Secretary General.
Okay. So before Bismarck joins, let me just do a round of introduction of our panelists, and then he can give the opening remarks just before we start. So I'll start with Caroline Rushingwa. Caroline is an accomplished business development professional with extensive global expertise in the area of international education management, marketing, diplomacy, and international trade and investment. And Caroline has over a decade track record of driving growth in challenging international markets, servicing students and stakeholders. Her expertise are in international higher education and has encompassed international students' mobility and government level engagement. Caroline is a high achiever, a lifelong student, a multi-award winning change agent, infinitely curious about the interconnectivity of things. Despite the occasional stumble, humility, integrity, and empathy mean the world to her. It is therefore no surprise that she was elected the Africa Chair of the British Universities International Liaison Association in 2023, a position she continues to hold. Caroline was also the 2023 award winner of Warwick University's Kindness on Campus Awards and a recipient of a top scholarship at the University of Warwick, where she pursued her master's in public policy. Caroline, welcome, and we look forward to hear you share your expertise and some of the opportunities that are available for the young people in Africa.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. The next one is Meritza Hengari, who is an international education specialist with expertise in strategic recruitment and global engagement across sub-Saharan Africa, South Asia, and Europe. At Solent University, she leads market-driven initiatives that enhance institutional visibility, build trust with stakeholders, and deliver measurable growth in student mobility. Meritza is passionate about expanding access to higher education and thrives on turning strategic goals into tangible outcomes through adaptability, innovation, and partnership. You're welcome, Meritza, and we're looking forward to your expertise as well on how young people can leverage their opportunities out there.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Sharon. I look forward to being part of this discussion.
Thank you. Our next panelist is Afia Yeboah Agyman. I hope I pronounced it right, Afia. Afia is the Higher Education Project Manager at the British Council Ghana, where she oversees higher education portfolio in Ghana, working across key program areas such as Going Global Partnerships, Alumni UK, Insight and Engagement, Great Scholarships, and International Student Mobility and Marketing. Her work focuses on building transnational education partnership, supporting entrepreneurship and capacity building in higher education institutions, strengthening alumni networks, promoting UK scholarships, providing opportunities for young people, and equipping education agents and school counselors with the tools to better support students pursuing education in the UK. You're welcome, Afia, and we hope that you're going to share your expertise with the young people that will be in attendance today, but also the ones joining us online.
Thank you, Sherine. I look forward to it.
Our next panelist is Papa Kojo Botsio, who is a PhD researcher at the Department of Education, University of Oxford, focusing on comparative education, social policy, and public administration. She is also the founder of Access Careers and Education Global, an education and career consultancy that provides tailored support for high school students, university, and career application worldwide. We welcome you, Papa Kojo, and we hope that you will be able to share some of the opportunities that are available for the young people in the continent.
Thank you, Sherine. I look forward to it.
Thank you. And our last panelist is Rose Kobusinge, who is an activist, advocate, and a researcher dedicating to advancing climate justice, sustainable development, and human mobility. She holds a master's degree in environmental change and management from the University of Oxford and is currently pursuing a PhD in sustainable energy futures in displacement settings at Coventry University. Rose serves as the African Union Youth Ambassador and International Organization for Migration, IMO, which is a common acronym, changemaker. She's also the founder of the Vital Crest Foundation, which integrates activism, policy engagement, and participatory research to address challenges at the nexus of environment, migration, and justice. Welcome, Rose, and we hope to hear from you and share with us the opportunities that are available and probably share your lived experiences of migration and justice for students.
Pleasure being here.
So Hilda will be handing over to you, and you can probably introduce Bismarck if he's already here.
Okay, thank you very much, Sherine. So as I mentioned before, the Secretary General is unable to join us now, but our Chief Technical Officer, who is in the person of Bismarck Amefianu, he'll be giving the opening remarks on behalf of the Secretary General. So Bismarck, if you can hear me, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. It's my very good friends that I see here. It's an honor to be with you once again. Papa Kojo, Caroline, Sherine, they are the ones I've met, but Rose, Afia is in Ghana, so I imagine that I should meet her soon as well. Rose and Meritza, I hope I got the name correct. Thank you so much for making the time to be with us and to have these conversations with us. There are a few things I want to highlight before we get into the discussions. Mobility generally is something that ASU is very, very concerned about, and have been trying so much to work on the policy side of the conversation, especially for our African colleagues. What is very striking for us as a huge challenge is credit transfers. ASU is headquartered here in Ghana. Even between Ghanaian universities, a student cannot move from, say, the University of Ghana, he or she has done 1 year, and go to, for instance, the University of Cape Coast to go and do the second year there. And this is even within the country. Not to talk about moving from one country to the next country to go and continue a program. It is something that we are very much concerned about, but something that we quickly also admit that solutions to it is not in the short, maybe not even the medium term. It's a long-term strategy and planning for this to happen within the African space. And whilst we strive at achieving that, for the other students who are able to move and have the finances to go to other countries to study, there's a lot to be aware of. And that is the space that I know that our panelists who have been assembled thrive in. That is your turf, and you are better at that space than any of us, more than me and anybody who works in the ASU space. So I want to thank you so much for taking your time to come and have this conversation with us. This session we're going to have here is not going to just be for the audience in this space. It's a space, it's a session that we recorded and used for our publicity activities across Ghana and across Africa for every student to benefit from. In that light, I want to welcome everybody, and I can promise you that you're in good and safe hands. I have had my personal testament with all the colleagues here, and I'm sure that by the end of this session, we will go back to our session well informed and knowing the right decisions to make in terms of our education as a person. Thank you so much, everybody, and have a fruitful deliberation. Thank you. Sherine, if you're there, that is it from my end. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bismarck. And now we're just going to dive deep into the conversation, and I'm hoping that we will be able to get as much as we need from our panelists, and the discussion will break down to people asking questions if they have any questions. So my first question, or my first discussion, is going to lead towards Caroline, and I will ask Caroline this question, and she's allowed to dive deeper into it, or just like give us a general perspective of it, and then we will get into it as we move. So if Caroline, you have your presentation, which I see you already sharing, that would be very nice, and you can just go ahead and show us.
Thank you very much, Sherine, for that wonderful introduction, and thank you, Hilda and Bismarck. It's such an honor for me to be here. One thing I'll always love to say is I'm a daughter of the continent. I'm originally from the DRC, so the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and you are all welcome to the Congo whenever it's safe to go there. So my name is Caroline Kinja Rushingwa, and I've basically studied in the UK. I've studied in France, I've studied in the US, and I've also studied in Poland. And I'm an alumni of Warwick University, where I currently work. And I've been with Warwick since 2016. And really today, as I was reflecting on what I would like you to sort of take from my engagement, really, is I wanted to make sure that you have a slide, and I've shared this with Hilda. So Hilda will be able to share it with you all upon completion of this engagement. So there's a lot to unpack through this presentation, but I won't be able to go through all of it. But through your time, you can basically take some time to go through everything. So Hilda, if I can have the next slide, please. And really, in essence, what I want you to leave here with is knowing more about what Warwick has to offer. Also, because there's over thousands of universities to choose from, I want you to also leave with tools to help you guide your decision. How do you choose the right destination, but also how do you choose the right course? And with that, I'll share insight on how to apply, with some tips that I've also written down, and opportunities for funding. I'm really happy to see that we have British Council in the room, because one of the key scholarship that I would encourage majority of you in the room here today, if not everyone, is to apply for Chevening scholarship. But again, I won't talk about it much because we do have British Council in the room. And then there will be a chance for us to basically basically engage and connect as well. So if there's any further question after today. So with that stated, please, if I can have the next slide, in terms of just Warwick. So Hilda, if I can have the next slide, please. Yes, so again, you basically do have a video here, but I'm not going to be playing the video. And again, if I can have the next slide. But one thing I wanted to really highlight, we're a young university. We only started in the 1960s, and we literally this year we're 60-year-old. And in terms of the story of Warwick, and one thing that I always make sure in all my engagement, following the ascension of our new chancellor, Biens Gawanas, that came to Warwick as a refugee back in the 80s, but now has come back to be a chancellor of the university. Your dreams are valid. So with that, I want you to basically remember, if there's anything that you're going to take from my engagement today, is your dream are valid, and whatever it is that you're pursuing, that you're wanting to accomplish, make sure you give it your goal, your best, and you go for those audacious goals that you have. We are a top university in the UK, and if I can have the next slide, we've been consistently in the top 10 of major league tables in the UK, in the top 20 in Europe, and in the top 100 in the world. So again, in terms of how do you choose, if you're looking for a university that is highly ranked, then and you're ranking centric, then Warwick could be one of the institutions that you look to explore in further detail following my engagement today, if you've not come across Warwick. And if I can have the next slide as well, so you can see when it comes to subject ranking, that we are really highly ranked as well in the various subjects. So again, as you navigate the university, also look at the subject, whether that subject in particular stands when it comes to UK ranking or European ranking or global ranking. And the particular ranking that you can use is a time higher education ranking or the QS ranking, because those are sort of like well-established institutions that rank university in the UK and across the globe. And if I can have the next slide as well. And of course, when it comes to courses, pretty much anything that you're thinking of studying will have that at Warwick. And as you start navigating courses, also make sure that you look at different ways that various universities will call the same subject. For instance, in some universities, they may call something global sustainable development, while in other, they may call it environmental science or humanitarian engineering. So make sure you look at the course, but you also look at the module. And again, I'll come to that in a second. If I can have the next slide. And we also do have partner university across the globe. So for those of you who are thinking, yes, I want to study in the UK, but maybe I want to go to Asia, maybe in Europe, maybe in Australia, we also do have partner university in those destinations. So depending on what it is exactly that you want to study, it could be that actually you end up also going to that university as one of our partner university. And next slide, please. And on to next, Hilda, if I can have the next slide. And on to next. So again, the other thing I always say to students is community is really important. One thing that really, for me, is really key is the spirit of Ubuntu. I am because you are, or we are. So therefore, wherever you go and study, make sure there's community of people that are sort of like aspiring to be in the same space that you aspire to be in as well. So for instance, if you love sport, football, basketball, golf, does that university offer that, or does that university give you the opportunity to create that? So again, at Warwick University, we have over 300 clubs in society. In terms of Pan-African Student Society, there's 11 of them. There's Ghanaian Society. I know the ASU headquarters is in Ghana. So we do have a Ghanaian society. We have an Africa Summit Society. And that's basically for students who aspire to work toward in Africa that is better led, better served, and better governed. Of course, there's the Mauritian Society, because again, ASU cover the whole of the Africa continent. So we do have all of these other Pan-African society also work from East Africa to West to all encompassing in terms of Pan-African student society. And if I can have next, please. And of course, just the university in terms of profile. So we're a campus university, 29,000 students studying with us. And for those who are thinking about maybe staying, going on to doing research, we have 40 research center also. And then in terms of African student population, over 500 students are studying at Warwick. So really, you'll find people that look like you, that sound like you, who are studying at Warwick, and who are also passionate about the future of our continent. If I can have the next slide, please. We are located in the city of Coventry, and if I can have the next slide again. So Coventry is basically just an hour into London, 20 minutes away into Birmingham, and again, if I can have the next slide. We are campus university, so really you can see a very green and a lot of spaces for you to learn. Again, if I can have the next slide, a lot of spaces for you to learn and a lot of places for you to also network. Again, if I can have the next slide. And of course, as a campus university, you'll find everything that typically you're looking for in terms of university. So again, if I can have the next slide. So here again, I just want to pause, especially if I can go back, if you can go back, please. I just want to pause and allow you to really just look at the breadth of resources that are available on campus. So from health center to pharmacy to travel agent to cafe to nightclub. So you find all of those on our campus. So in a nutshell, we have the things that people sometimes will call the Warwick bubble, in a sense that you don't have to leave our campus because you have everything that you typically will want on our campus. And of course, for those of you who want to keep fit, if I can have the next slide, there's also a sports center that costed university over £1 million investment, and there's a 25-meter swimming pool in that. For those of you who cannot swim, it's a chance for you maybe to learn as well. And for those who want free activity, there's over 60 hours of free activity that you can partake in as well. And again, if I can have next slide. And really, and the next slide as well again. As we start sort of like going into accommodation, we do have accommodation on campus and of course off campus as well. Again, I'm not really going to go into so much detail on this. If I can have next slide, because you'll be able to find more information about our accommodation on our website. This is key thing that I know majority of you will also be exploring in terms of, yes, I finished with a top degree from Cape Coast or from Ashesi or from Kenya, from Uganda, Makerere, wherever it is that you study, and therefore you want to know that we have undergraduate scholarship or postgraduate scholarship. So these are scholarship that we had in 2025, but there will be scholarship that will be getting announced anytime from September onward. But I can already tell you that this particular scholarship will be running, but in terms of what that will look like in terms of how many are full fee, how many have, half fees and all of that, that is yet to be announced. But this already kind of give you an understanding in terms of, okay, Warwick does have a lot of undergraduate scholarship that I can tap into. One of the key things, if there's any one undergraduate student in the room, is you need to make sure you apply to Warwick by the UCAS deadline. So the UCAS deadline is in January. So you need to make sure that you apply before that so that you can qualify for this particular scholarship. And everyone, if you're undergraduate, anyone can apply for this scholarship. It's for any international student. And if I can have the next slide. In terms of master's students, again, for 2025, because we're just in the process of finishing 2025, as students are starting to arrive, and then we'll move on to 2026 advertisement for scholarship. But again, in 2025, all these departments were, had scholarship for international students. So again, you really want to make sure that you start looking early, maybe even familiarizing yourself with what did they offer last year and what were they looking for, so that you can start putting your plan so that you're not waiting last minute to submit your application. So definitely we do have scholarship, but again, British Council are also in the room, so they'll be able to highlight some of the other scholarship like Commonwealth, Chevening Scholarship. And if I can have the next slide, I know I have like 5 minutes remaining, and this is now where it's really important in terms of how to choose. And again, next slide. My advice is think about what's really important to you. Are you more increase job security? Like what exactly is what is your dream? What do you want? If money was not an issue, forget about, yes, money may be an issue, but think about, if money was not an issue, what is important to you? And use that to sort of being one of the driving force in what propel you to, to what you make your decision to be next. And if I can have the next slide. And with that, I sort of like I had fun putting this together in terms of how you can plan. My advice is, you're already in the room. I can see there's 30, at least 30 people in the room, and a lot of people also watching online. And of course, there'll be people, because it's being live streamed, that will end up watching this at a later stage. So thank you as well for that. So my advice is, maybe have a goal in terms of how you choose. So do your research, some desk-based research, attend live events, or try to engage with university that you are able to, like, let's say today, feel free to take my contact. There's Hilda, there's Papa Kojo, there's Rose. So many of us are in the room today. So again, try to engage with us, get our contact so that you can stay in touch with us. But also do your research. And as you start doing your research, make sure you create a short list on what's important to you. And if you're able to, or if you have friends and family in the UK and you want them to come and visit Warwick to have a feel of the place, let them do that field research for you so that you can make a decision that that I made a constructive decision that is right for me. And then you can choose, again, there's no definite formula. You can choose your top 5 and apply to those top 5 universities in the UK. And if I can have the next slide. And as you start really thinking about, let's say if you're applying for bachelor degree, think about whether you want a 4-year course, or you want a 3-year course. A 4-year sometime will have a year abroad, a gap year, or a placement year. So I did a year abroad for my undergrad and I went to France. But me doing that, I was able to actually understand that what I thought I wanted to do in terms of next, I did not want to do that. And therefore, I had to really rethink my goal and my ambition and my aspiration. So again, think about what's really important to you. And if I can have the next slide. And as you start thinking in terms of criteria, how do you choose university? Obviously, in the room today, there's Russell Group University like Warwick, Oxford, again, another Russell, Russell Group University. But there's also collegiate, there's modern university, there's different size of university, different shape of them. So think about what's really important. Look at league table, look at, ask people for feedback, engage and do your research, read blogs. But at the end of the day, when you start choosing, make sure you choose a decision. I always say, like, choosing a university is one that you have to make with your head, but also with your heart. So as you start doing your research, you will know exactly what it is that you want to be planted in terms of your next season. And if I can have the next slide, and I have 3 minutes remaining, I broke it down into really two aspects: having academic criteria and also having non-academic. In the academic, you can break it down into reputation, research, academic, funding, study abroad, career guidance. And I'll talk about career guidance in a minute for Warwick. And then the non-academic can have location, culture, weather, student life, part-time job. So again, think about what's really important to you as you start deciding. And then if I can have the next slide again, please. And now I wanted to give you an example. So for instance, if let's say you're passionate about doing economics, and if I can have the next slide, you can come and do straight economics. This is just an example for undergraduate. Hilda, if I can have the next slide. So this is, let's say, straight economics, what you'll cover in your first year, second year, and third year. And I'll give you another example. Again, next slide, please. You can also come and say, you know, I'm actually interested in economics, but I'm also interested in politics. So therefore, you can come and do economics and also choose in terms of your path, whether you want to focus more on economics or you want to focus more on the politics in your second year. And then your final year, you can decide whether you want 50-50 or you want to focus more on one aspect. So again, there's a lot of opportunity for you to choose. So again, a student that is interested in economics, but also interested in maybe international studies, so you can already see the different module that will be presented to you as a student. And then the final slide in terms of economics, you can also see that apart from just straight economics or economics and international studies at Warwick, we also do have all of these other courses that have economic embedded in them. So you can come do economics with French or German or Hispanic studies. So there's with global sustainable development. So there's a lot of option and combination to pick from. And if I can have the next slide again. And this is just an example that I wanted to really present to you all. One of the key things that they all have in common is that they came to Warwick and they all study at Warwick at different time, in different season, and they've all decided to go on to different paths. So we have Jens Gawanas, who came to Warwick from Namibia and is now the Chancellor of the University of Warwick. We have Prof. Kenneth Mwenda, who basically is from Zambia, who now work with the World Bank. We have Valentin Stresser, who was from Sierra Leone, also did law at Warwick and went on to becoming head of state. We have Charles Adegun Phillips, who did law as well at Warwick and went on to becoming the former prosecutor for the genocide in Rwanda. And of course, we have our own, if I may say our own, Ghanaian, Honorable Irene Toshi from Ghana, and went on to becoming deputy ambassador for Ghana as well. So you can see really different. When I say to you, what is your goal, what is your dream, you can see that they all had their own goal and they all had their own dream, but they did law and went on to doing other things and all making an impact in the world. So again, your dreams are valid, whatever it is that you want to accomplish. If I can have the next slide with 1 minute remaining. So think about course content as you choose. Think about the teaching style in that university, how you're going to be assessed. So think about all of that as you're deciding on the course as well. And again, next slide, please. And when it comes to employability, Warwick again is highly ranked. So if you're ranking centric, you want a top university, you want a university that is targeted by the FTSE 100, the top 100 company in the UK that has global reputation for employability. Again, Warwick will be one of those because that's one of our track record as well of opportunity. And if I can have the next slide. These are various companies that have come through the doors of Warwick and where some of our students work. Again, but there's a variety of them. There's, the FTSE 100 and many more. And if I can have the next slide. Really, in essence, I'm also a Warwick alumni. I did public policy, and I've decided to stay in the education space, really shaping policy that, align with Africa and that supports the university goal and vision, but also with my own interest and passion in Africa, making sure that I bring that voice, and also being able to just guide and support rising generation who are basically you and myself in terms of what we do next with our continent. So with that said, again, thank you so much, Sherine, and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Caroline. That was a very well detailed explanation of Warwick and how African students can join the different programs, and I think that is what we need. We need people to give us that kind of information because information is power. And so I think I have a question, but probably I will ask it at the very end. But I also think the attendees will also have questions. But my next question or my next opportunity is to have Meritza's presentation. I remember when I joined for my master's degree in Norway, I was in contact with the international officer, and they were very helpful. And I imagine they were the ones who, not really imagine, but that is how it was. They were really helpful in making sure that I was well, I settled in well, and not just me, but all the international students that came in. And I'm looking forward to what Meritza has to say, and some of the experiences that she experienced as the senior international officer. So Meritza, it's your floor.
Thank you so much, Sherine. I'm just going to share my screen. Hilda, could you allow me to share my screen, and then I'll share my presentation once I've tidied it up later on for you to share with the wider audience.
Okay, just a moment.
Thank you.
Chinri, can you allow her? I think I am unable to. Let me quickly prompt the host.
Thank you. While we wait for my presentation to come up, I just wanted to touch on some of the things that Caroline touched on, because my presentation will be similar as well. And I think one of the things you touched on is the ability to research and to know what it is that you have in mind when you're looking for a university. I think that's so important. So the early stages of looking for a university are probably some of the most important steps that you'll take when you're starting to look for that next step in your career, to look for that next step in your journey of education and explore yourself. So I always encourage students to get on the internet. We're children of the internet now. So to get on the internet, join webinars, join discussions, Substacks. There are people who are writing about the experiences of, what it was to study a certain group, a certain course at a certain university, and so forth and so on. And it's really good to join in those conversations, because you can always pick up little nuggets depending on where people went to, and you can always follow up with people. So whoever is on this call today, please do feel free to follow up with us. Brilliant.
Sorry to interrupt, but I think you can share your screen now.
Yes, I've started. Could we just, let's see. Brilliant. Can you see that?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Amazing. Yeah. Amazing. So back to this presentation. My presentation will be a bit general, but just a quick introduction to everyone who's just joined the session. My name is Meritza, and I am the Senior International Officer for African students and East African students here at Southampton Solent University. As part of my role at this university is to help support you on your journey to finding a suitable course, but on your journey to exploring your education ambitions at Southampton Solent. So my presentation is called Preparing for Your Future. I'm going to start it a little bit to do with what we spoke about earlier when we're talking about research. Africa is has one of the youngest populations in the world at the moment, and everybody is looking to the African child or trying to see how they can get involved with African students and engage them. So I think when you're looking for university and you're looking to explore your potential on the world stage, I think it's important for everybody to look at what skills are missing, what skills are needed. And so I kind of pulled this up as a return on investment because these are some of the top skills and fastest growing skills by 2030. So when you're looking at these skills, this is where you can kind of think, oh, where do I fit in? Or what course am I going to look at? And I think finding out what skills are missing in the job market, what skills are missing in the world, actually will help you narrow down what type of course you can choose or where you can go and study. Based on the skills that are missing or based on the skills that you think, okay, maybe I want to focus on AI because that's a growing space. I know Ghana has a great AI hub. I have a friend of mine who went to MEST. So I know that there's a lot of things happening in Ghana around AI, and as well as the creative side of things as well. So those are things one can look at and think, okay, what different angle can I take when I'm looking to grow myself? The other thing we talked about was about researching the university and finding out what type of things are out there. Caroline touched on this a little bit, that Warwick is a well-renowned university. Southampton Solent is a young university. We're still young in the game. So you have to research and find out what is it that makes Southampton Solent a university that's comparable with some of the other universities in the world. But also, not just Southampton Solent, but any other university that you're going to go and look at. You have to look at what that university has to offer you. Because university is not just about the studying. Studying is important, yes, but you want to know what you're going to get out of it when you finish your student journey. Is there employability opportunities? Are the courses recognized and accredited? Are there any other opportunities, such as you could start a startup? Is there support for you? What's the assessment and feedback like when you are at that university? These are discussions that you can join when you're registering for online sessions. Most universities will have online open days. So I would say explore the opportunities of signing up to as many online open days. When I was a student, one of the things that I did when I first started looking at universities, which was ages ago, the first thing I did is I spent the best part of my summer break researching universities. My first degree was in law. And what I did is I looked at all the top law courses in the country. In the UK is where I chose to come and study, and then I looked at the top law courses in the country. And what I did is I went on each university website that came up, and I Googled kind of what the course content was, what networking opportunities were available, what industry networks were available, were there mentoring opportunities available, what academic support overall was available at that university. And I took that in conjunction with my own learning style. You have to kind of measure out what type of person you are as well, because when you come to university, or when you're moving from a new country to a university abroad, sometimes there are these little nuances that can kind of get you caught up. And so by doing your research and finding out what teaching style was, or finding out what the lecturers are like, actually really helped me with making my final decision at the end. Networking opportunities. One of the things I did is I attended webinars, like I said earlier, open days. I did in-person open day sessions where a lot of universities on this call, i.e. Oxford. Well, Oxford not as much, but probably Warwick, us, and other universities in the UK tend to come into country once or twice a year, and they'll host sessions. You can attend these sessions and you can speak to the university representative on a one-to-one basis and find out what's happening. And this is like kind of gathering that information and gathering that database. So when you get home, you can kind of go, okay, this university does this university does that. Mentoring for me was a really important part, because I really wanted to know when I was studying my degree that I would be able to meet people that are in industry and people I could learn from. So finding out whether a lecturer has worked in the industry or has any connections in the industry was really helpful for me, because out of that I was able to get internships. I leveraged my relationship with my lecturer at one point and got an internship at a law firm in London. So those are the kind of things I'm encouraging you to do. Put yourself out there, reach out to universities, connect with, you can even connect with people on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a great source of information. You can connect with university lecturers on LinkedIn. And one thing I've learned about university lecturers is that they love to talk about their area of specialization, but they love to talk about their research. And so if you have questions, they will always be willing to answer. Location is everything. A lot of students that are traveling abroad or that are going abroad, location is everything. You want to know where you're going to study is safe. You want to know where you're going to study is also cost effective. You want to know that where you're going to study will be somewhere you can feel at home, because this is your home away from home, and it will be your home for the next 3 to 4 years. And you want to know that it's somewhere you can fit in. Something I loved about what Caroline said earlier about Warwick is that you will see someone who looks like you everywhere you go. And I think that's the one thing. I went to a university where it was predominantly, it didn't have a huge African society and didn't have a huge African community. Nonetheless, I still enjoyed my time, but I felt like that would have been quite something to have. So if that's important to you, then have a look and find out what the student demographic is like and what the student population is like. Because again, when you've moved away from home, homesickness can creep up on you. So you want to make sure that there is community there, because I think university experience outside of learning, you want to feel connected to something, and it's important that you are in an environment where you feel not only connected, but you feel supported. So do your research when it comes to location. For example, Southampton is one of the warmest parts of the country. So maybe you want to be somewhere that's a little bit warmer rather than somewhere that rains all the time, like Manchester or something. They call Manchester Rainchester. So again, outside of location, you want to make sure that it's well connected. For example, Caroline mentioned that Warwick is close to London. Similarly to us, we're also close to London. We're 17 minutes away from London, which means you can have the London experience should you wish to, so you can go to London for the weekend and be back home by the end of the day. But outside of that, we are well connected with airports. So there are airports around, there are great restaurants, cafes, and places where you can also just hang out and learn and immerse yourself in the local culture. So student scholarships, each university will vary. Each university will have their own scholarship opportunities. Some universities in the UK, such as the Oxfords or Cambridge, they have full funded scholarships, but other universities, such as our young university, does not always offer full scholarships, but there are many opportunities you can tap into as well. We have our own dedicated scholarships for our undergraduate and postgraduate students. They get renewed every year, so I implore you to go onto our website and look at that. But other opportunities that you can look at, or scholarships you could look at, outside of the ones that the British Council offer, because British Council have a great scholarship. They also obviously support Rushingwa. There's also the Commonwealth Scholarship. There's the Rotary Scholarship. There's local government scholarships. So have a look and see if there are any local governments in your country or your region that might have scholarships that can support international studies. For example, Angola have a company called Kobusinge that helps support students to study abroad. QS Impact Scholarships, there are loads of scholarship opportunities there. So again, going back to the first point that I made was that research is going to be your best friend in this journey. Admissions process will vary university to university, but I want to give you a kind of a brief overview of what our admissions process is and what the admissions process is for most universities. Typically, we would like, firstly, we would like to, if you're coming from an employability background, we'd like to see your CV and would like to see a cover letter. And a personal statement would always be quite handy. I always think a personal statement really outlines who you are and why you've chosen the course that you chosen. I spent this week speaking to 17-year-olds that are looking to study abroad, and they're coming specifically from Tanzania. So we spent the afternoon looking over their personal statements. I think a personal statement really gives you sets the tone for an academic when they're reading about who you are, why you want to study the course that you want to study, and why you want to go to the university that you've chosen. So I always ask students, when you're looking at writing your personal statement, go back to the origin of what I said earlier, which is research, have a look at the course, have a look at the course content, find out who's teaching what and where, and you can use that as the anchor for your personal statement. But I think those are really, really important, because when universities are looking at applications, they're looking at the whole application. And often enough, you can always explain certain anomalies away depending on the university. But for us, I have drop-in sessions. So maybe during this discussion, I can share my email address. I have drop-in sessions where I can look at people's personal statements and CVs and give them some advice. I love looking at personal statements because, again, it just gives me a flavor of who the individual is. But also, I think when you're not used to writing personal statements, you always need someone who's used to giving advice and to give you some context of what universities are looking for. I'm going to stop here. Knowing that I still have some time, I'm going to stop here and I'm going to stop sharing. Because I think really what I wanted to cover in this conversation and really to highlight on is that everyone has an opportunity to be whoever they want to be. The opportunities are right in front of you. You just need to grab them. The only thing that's standing between you and that opportunity is your own internalized fear and maybe the possibility of someone saying no. But if someone says no, there's always someone else willing to say yes. And I always encourage students or individuals to take the chance on themselves and put themselves out there, because you'll get more out of putting yourself out there than anything. So I'm going to stop here and hope that we can pick up the conversation later on.
Thank you very much for that detailed presentation, Meritza. And I hope that we're able to leave questions in the chats, and we'll definitely ask all the panelists to respond to some of the questions that you leave in the chat. Now, our third presenter would be from the British Council. There'll be two, Afia and the colleague will be, presenting about the British Council and the Commonwealth Scholarship as well. So, Afia, please take the floor and kindly introduce your colleague as well.
Okay. My name is Afia Yeboah Agyman, and as part of the project portfolio that I manage here at the British Council is the Great Scholarships. Also to note that the scholarships that we have here as the British government is the Great Scholarships, the Commonwealth Scholarship, and the Sherine Scholarships. My colleague Rosalind Obadioni from Nigeria, who handles the Commonwealth Scholarship, is on the call and should be sharing more insights about the Commonwealth Scholarship while I share insights on the Great Scholarships. Unfortunately, we are not able to share insights on the Sherine because our colleague was not able to join, but I would drop the link as the scholarships are opened so that all who are eligible to apply could apply for the Sherine scholarships. Right. So the Great Scholarship is funded by the British government, and the Great Scholarship is funded by the British government and the UK higher education institutions. The 2025-2026 Great Scholarships offers are currently closed, but the 2026-2027 scholarship offers will be opened this year, November, December. And there are usually a list of eligible countries that are listed on the Great Scholarships platform. And for last academic year, Ghana, Nigeria, Kenya, and the list that you see on the screen were the eligible countries. Every year, the eligible countries vary, but Ghana, Nigeria, and Kenya over the years have been eligible countries so far. And for last academic year, these are the UK institutions that were offering the scholarships. There were 12 UK institutions that was offering a minimum of £10,000 off your tuition fee. And this offer is only for the tuition fees, giving you a waiver. So we had University of Exeter, University of Southampton, Lancaster University, and all the other 12 institutions for Ghanaians, and the list of countries that I had shared earlier. So who could apply for the grade scholarships? So if you are an eligible country, you should be a passport holder of the country. You should have an undergraduate degree that will enable you gain entry onto the postgraduate program at the UK university. You also have to meet the academic and English language requirements of the UK university you apply to, usually IELTS or university-specific English language requirements. Also, what we are looking for in a grade scholar, you have to have an undergraduate degree and also express your interest in the proposed subject area. So all the UK uni listed offering the grade scholarship usually have specific courses that the waiver is going to be applied on. So every institution, for example, would have grade scholarship offered for law or business. So it varies per the institutions. You also have to meet the English language requirements of the UK higher education institution. You have to establish an engagement with the UK as a scholar through personal and academic fulfillment. Like Meritza had shared earlier, you need your cover letter, your personal statement, and all that. You also have to be willing to attend networking events of all UK-based grade scholars to discuss experiences, capture your perceptions of studying in the UK. Also, you have to be willing to maintain contact with the British Council and the higher education institution that you gain the scholarship in. So once you're done with the grade scholarship, the British Council, we have the Alumni UK platform. That is a platform for all who have studied in the UK for either undergraduate or postgraduate, and for networking, professional development session. Also, we do hold pre-departure briefing sessions. So you should also be willing to share your experience to prospective UK students or students who have gained admission to the UK so that they can have a fair idea of how they can transition when they get to the UK. Also, as an alumnus of the grade scholarship, you have to be willing to occasionally speak to potential candidates about your experience, like I said, of you studying in the UK, how the grade scholarship works. So each grade scholarship gives you a minimum of £10,000 off your tuition. So usually the fees would range from about 25k. It varies. So you could get a waiver, and like Meritza and Caroline had shared, there are university-specific scholarships which you might be eligible to apply and add on to the waiver. Also, the scholarships are offered only at postgraduate third level only for 1-year courses. You can apply for more than one university that offers the grade scholarship. So if there are 13 institutions, you are eligible to apply for all, but at the end of the day, you could just choose only one. The deadline of the grade scholarship varies by university. You have to check the institutions on the platform to see the deadlines. Like I mentioned, it opens around November, December, and closes June the following year. So this year, November, December 2025, and it will close latest by June 2026. So it varies per institution. How to apply for the grade scholarships. So visit, if you are not a Ghanaian, you could just search grade scholarships and you see the list of countries that are eligible to apply on the Study UK platform. But if you're Ghanaian, Nigerian, Kenyan, you can just text, you can just type grade scholarships Ghana or grade scholarship Nigeria. Also, you have to visit the university site to learn more about how to apply. Usually applying for your own choosing course through the university's own application system. So with the grade scholarship, some of the universities, you'd have to apply for the university before you're able to apply for the grade scholarships, or others, whilst you apply for the school, you're able to apply for the scholarship. So it varies. So once you go on the platform, you see the list of, once you see the countries, you select the country, then you select, there will be the list of institutions, then you select the institution, you're able to see how you're able to, how you could apply for the scholarships. Also, shortlisted applicants may be asked to attend video interview with the university selection committee. This is based on the criteria for each university. Also, to add that the shortlisting and interview process will be managed by the university. It's not handled by the British Council. Usually we get emails from students about queries concerning the application. Please note that the universities are responsible for selecting their student based on their criteria. So if you're eligible, you're able to get it. So please contact your chosen university for more information on your application process. Thank you so much. I would end here, and my colleague Rosalind would speak on the Commonwealth Scholarship. Rosalind, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Afia. Okay, so I would be sharing my screen. Please let me know.
I can share from my side, don't worry.
Okay, I think it's sharing already. Sure. Okay. Please confirm if you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Good morning once again. Good afternoon, wherever you're joining from. My name is Roslyn Obadiono, and I'm the project manager for the Commonwealth Scholarship for Nigeria and Ghana, and I'm based in Lagos, Nigeria. So glad to be on the call. Okay, so I'll provide an overview of the Commonwealth Scholarship. And so the Commonwealth Scholarship is development focused, and so it responds to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And then it supports talented and motivated individuals just like you to gain the skills and knowledge which is required to make positive impact on the development priorities of your home country. And annually, the Commonwealth Scholarships Commission awards over 800 scholarships and fellowships for postgraduate studies and professional development. Then, since its inception in 1959, over 31,000 scholars and fellows have been funded through the CSC. So now let's look at what are the objectives of the Commonwealth Scholarship. So to provide world-class scholarships. So to provide world-class scholarships that contribute to sustainable development across the Commonwealth, then the program also ensures that promotes equity, inclusions, and delivers widespread access, especially to those from marginalized backgrounds. Then it also supports and encourages cutting-edge research, innovation, knowledge exchange throughout the Commonwealth. So we have 5 pathways to applying for the Commonwealth scholarships for Ghana. Okay, just before that, let me just talk about the thematic areas. So there are 6 thematic areas. So science and technology for development. So basically, when you are applying for the Commonwealth scholarships, irrespective of the course, it has to align with one of these thematic areas, and it also has to align with one of the sustainable or more than one of the sustainable development goals. So you have strengthening health systems and capacity. So if you're going for One Health, public health, this is where it aligns the second thematic area on strengthening health systems and capacity. Then you look at the SDG in which that links to. Then you have promoting global prosperity, strengthening global peace, security, and governance, then strengthening resilience and response to crisis, then access, inclusion, and opportunity. So just like I mentioned earlier, we have 5 pathways. The first is the Master's Scholarship. So this is currently open and will be closed 14th of October. So with this pathway, you would need to apply through a nominating agency. So each country have their national nominating agency. So for Ghana, you have the Ghana Scholarship Secretariat, but then again, you have other nominating agencies, which are NGOs and charitable bodies. So you have the Forum for African Women Educationalists, you have the Early Access Network, you have the Commonwealth Disabled People's Forum. There are a good number of them which you can apply through. So you don't have to apply just through your national nominating agency. Then you have the shared scholarships. So this is also a master's pathway. So with this, it's called shared because you have selected UK institutions that partners with the Commonwealth Scholarships Commission to offer an award to prospective applicants. Then you have the distance learning scholarship. This is also a master's pathway. And so it provides that flexibility for you to be in your own country and still take your master's study. Then you have the split sites for PhD studies at a UK university. So with this, you need to have started your PhD in your home country, and then you go apply to study for 1 year. But with this particular pathway, you need to ensure that your supervisor home country and your proposed supervisor are in alignment before you apply. You have the professional fellowship. So this is for mid-career professionals to spend a time at a UK host organization or institution. So say maybe 2 to 3 months, then you return back to your home country. So so far we have over 2,000 alumni that have been funded through the CSC in Ghana. So this varies across the different Commonwealth countries. So this is the website. I would still drop this link and the slide deck. I'll share this with Hilda. And this is the link for the master's application that is currently open. I think one of the things I would mention regarding the application is please read the different sections on the page. There's also advice for applicants to have a Word document that highlights the criteria. As you write your impact statements, please ensure that you read it, because now that the application is open, we've received a lot of queries, and some of those queries, most of them are actually on the application page. So please take out the time to read through and then start your application. And so just to also mention that I think one of the major queries we've been getting over the years is around language requirements. So for the Commonwealth Scholarship, it's not the Commonwealth Scholarships that is requesting for language for IELTS. It's usually the institution. So check as you are making your application if that's also a requirement. And you can also apply to multiple institutions under this particular pathway that is open. That's this one that's currently open. For that of the shared scholarship, that will be opened later in the year, within November and December. But that is limited because you only have the host institutions that partners with the Commonwealth Scholarship. So that'll be all from me. Over to you, Sherine.
Rosalina, thank you very much for the detailed presentation on the scholarships. I think that is also one of the areas that African students need access and information about. And I see in the chats we've left different comments. Please, participants, take your time and just go through them. The links are sent there, and you can also just check them before the meeting ends so that you can look at the links at your free time. Thank you very much, Rosaline and Afia, for the detailed presentation on the British Council. So I will welcome our next presenter from the University of Oxford, Papa Kojo. The floor is yours, and let's see what you got to give us. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Sherine. Am I able to share my screen? I just have a few sort of discussion pointers. Okay, I can. Okay. All right, brilliant. So my name is Kojo Botsio. I am from Ghana and I've studied abroad both in the US and in the UK. So for my undergrad, I moved to the US to study at Swarthmore College for my bachelor's. Afterwards, did my master's at Cornell and then moved to the UK, both to work and then to do my PhD at the University of Oxford, which I'm currently finishing. So the topic that I've been asked to speak of is dreams versus realities. And it's a very interesting one. I think most of my colleagues, fellow speakers on this call have spoken about sort of different admissions requirements, a bit about scholarships and funding from the British Council perspective. And I'll try and cover a bit of that from different perspectives, the US, UK perspective, but also a general global perspective. I think a bit about Canada as well, as I support students apply mainly to those 3 countries through my consultancy, Access Careers and Education Global. So I'll start with a few discussion points. Give me a second. Trying to move the slide, but okay. So what does moving to study abroad really look like? Having worked with maybe more than 200 students now, trying to explore their study abroad opportunities, I have realized that a lot of people don't really have a plan. It's true that things may be difficult back home. It's true that there are wonderful opportunities out there to pursue. But I think you need to have a strong why. And before I go into having sort of that purpose and a strong why, I would share a bit about what study abroad really looks like. So it can be really nice when you are fully funded, when you have rich schools like Warwick giving you your 100%, 50% scholarships, when you're on Sherine, when you're on Commonwealth, and you don't have to worry about different details. But a lot of times, all that funding is really good, but sometimes there are other sort of funding requirements that you need to meet around living costs, etc., especially if you don't have one of the full funding packages, right? So moving to study abroad looks like going to pursue all of these wonderful opportunities, but it also takes a lot of planning. Okay, financial planning is one of the biggest ones. And because of that, recently what I do is that when I'm working with students to look at their options, we always prioritize either applying to scholarship programs or to schools that have clear scholarship programs that they qualify for, so that you don't end up moving abroad, being able to cover, some of your costs at the beginning and then running into challenges keeping afloat or still looking for funding for the next year, even though there are some options and continuing grants to cover some of those. So I think that planning is really, really important. Moving to study abroad is really, really good. I think it broadens your horizons. Usually, if you're going to study abroad, you're looking to add on to your personal or professional milestones that you've already hit. You may have some goals for, some knowledge or skills that you really want to gain, that you really want to use to change your community, change the world in some ways or the other. So that takes me to my second point. I think that to make a strong application and to really succeed studying abroad, you need to start with purpose and have a strong why. And I'm sure in the Q&A, my sort of fellow panelists will say a bit more about this. To make your application successful, it's good to demonstrate. It's good to be able to demonstrate why you're applying, first of all, and what outcomes you really want. Now, if you're able to have these down strongly planned, it also guides what you are trying to get from the program and your next steps, right? So starting with purpose looks like I have an undergraduate in, let's say, computer science at the University of Ghana, and I know that there are more advanced courses and skills that I can gain at a place like Warwick or Southampton, Solent, right? So I want to do an assessment of those skills gaps that I want to gain, and then make my application to the schools that have those programs that I'm looking for. As Meritza mentioned, it's really important to really plan in that way so that before you even get to the school, you sort of have some of that reality locked down, right? You know what to expect, at least academically. You know that you're going to study the specific thing versus maybe just applying to a mixed bag because at least you get the chance to go abroad. So taking the time to plan and go where you would really sort of be strengthened both personally and professionally is really, really important. I think that a lot of schools offer you a lot of things, but there's also an art to actually finding a very good match, a school that also can financially back you, but also a school that gives you the right career services, the right skills, the right courses, even the professors, as Meritza mentioned. It's important to research on sort of which professors you may be working with. Some of them are open to you reaching out to them, and that also strengthens your application when you can articulate to them, once there are no restrictions to that, you can articulate to them that this is what you're thinking of, this is what you have at the moment, and this is the way in which you are trying to improve yourself. That way they know that this is a strong candidate who has a strong sense of purpose, and during the review rounds they could back you. So just have that in mind. Unless the school has restrictions, it's usually a good idea to sort of network with professors a bit, especially if you're applying for research degrees and PhDs, as you'd be working directly with them as supervisors. Now, once you've established that, I think it makes it easier to find your right match for school and then make a successful application. Once you've been admitted, though, there are other things that you can do to be fully prepared. to make sure that you are living a more positive reality than the challenges that some may find themselves in, right? So, for example, funding, accommodation, learning expenses, you want to be able to really consider that you have all of those covered. And that's why you have organizations like the British Council in Ghana and in your various other Commonwealth countries who are there to point you to different funding opportunities, or at least join their info sessions on Commonwealth chevening, Commonwealth shared grade scholarships, so that you know what really exists. Caroline, for example, I don't know if I should blow her cover here, but she's quite often in the various African countries, and she does info sessions that are going to detail how to make successful applications, including funding applications, to Warwick, for example, right? So seek out those opportunities for different schools that you will be attending. And normally their international student representatives would give you the right pointers to make sure that your reality is a successful one. So I don't want to focus too much on some challenges that people fall into, because the whole point of this conversation and this panel is to show you what to do to really succeed. It's the same for accommodation, learning experiences. In some parts of the UK, for example, where there are big sort of student towns and big worker populations, accommodation may not be that easy, right? Sometimes you have to rent privately, etc. So it's good to prepare for all of these things, seek advice from your admissions offices, from other organizations, even before you leave to study, like the African Students Associations, international student offices, etc. And I would say the same for learning expenses. It's important to know what is required of you. Make sure that you have all of those covered and ready. And sometimes through your scholarship programs as well, they cover other ancillary costs, including laptops and other learning technologies. So it's good to know that and plan ahead. Now, make a full plan and execute early. So what I've covered is just the application and then the pre-entry bit. But a full plan looks like actually thinking of what funding gaps you need to cover, what other experiential gaps you need to cover. So, for example, most departments that you would apply to would have some casual research assistantships, both in the US, UK, also in Canada, in the various departments that they advertise, right? Networking with professors, networking with alumni and current students look like basically seeking out what other opportunities there are to gain skills beyond your coursework. So in that way, you can find work study ups. If your funding was partial or almost full, for example, it's good to start early to be able to close those gaps, interview for research assistantships, etc. So once you land, you have sort of these experiences that are not just going to sort of give you a bit more funding to make things work, but also will upskill you. Having a research assistantship or other work study opportunity already gives you some credibility when you're ready to transition into internships or work, because you've technically got some work experience within your university. And I say the same thing for internships. Increasingly, there are different organizations that are offering internship opportunities. In the US, there's something called the Sponsors for Educational Opportunity, SEO. I know it's also in Ghana and other African countries. And then in the UK, there's the 10,000 Black interns, which is a goal to make sure that by a certain year, I don't know if it's 2030, there are 10,000 interns from Black interns from various UK universities who have placements at top companies, which usually or hopefully would convert to full-time. So that's also really important. It's good to plan for the educational experience, but also what do you want to do with the educational experience? What other skills do you want to gain? What are the add-ons that you really need? So look out for these opportunities, start to list them out, and start to network your way to finding the right contacts that can open these doors. So this alumni, your African Students Association leaders, your international student offices, British Council, even your embassies sometimes can help you with brainstorming, filling these funding and opportunity gaps. And then that leads me to career applications. So this is something that I've had a rude awakening about. Okay, in the UK, and I want to be very realistic, in the UK, on average, it takes about 8 months to successfully find a job, okay, as a Black person studying here. And apart from the fact that generally there is, so the latest statistic was about up to 17% of graduates sort of are still job searching beyond a year, right? But what happens is that from application to actually getting a spot at a workplace can take you up to 8 months. If your program is a 12-month program, that means when you start in, let's say, September, by December, you should have already applied for jobs if you are planning to stay on to work. Okay, and this is something that a lot of people aren't prepared about, but increasingly I prepare my students for that, because what happens is by the time they are finishing, they're now starting to apply for jobs, and that's not enough time on their graduate visa, or that's just too much of a burden, spending 8 months trying to look for work so that you can get work experience in the UK before hopefully you decide to move back to Ghana or whichever other African country. So it's important to look out for these opportunities in this order, right? But for the career apps, you can start as soon as you get into your program, or by your first vacation, which is over the winter break or December break. You should have started applying already. Reach out to your career services, reach out to the same international student offices, to people in roles like Caroline and Meritza. They usually can point you to the right people that can help you with your career applications as well. So that's one of the realities that people don't typically prepare very well for, and it's really important to prepare ahead. I don't know how many minutes I have, but I'll try and finish the last 2 or 3 points in the next 3 minutes.
Yeah, you have 3 minutes. Yeah.
Sorry?
You have 3 minutes.
Okay, perfect. And then I'll say be open-minded. Moving into a new country may mean a new start or new pivots. So it could be that you're going for a master's. Okay, you already had 5 or 10 years experience in a nice role in a bank. But what happens is that a lot of these experiences, like Bismarck was saying, even within Ghana, we have conversion issues with credits, right? Moving abroad could also look like conversion issues with work experience, etc. You have to be open-minded to taking an internship initially, for example, and then transitioning into a career just to find your feet in a new system. And usually, after making that first jump, it's easier to move into different roles if you want to get some experience again before you move back home. And I always say that it's good to get experience because it opens your mind to how things work efficiently, usually a bit more efficiently, that you can learn and replicate back home, right? So be open-minded to that. Pursue the things that you want to pursue. Pursue going straight into a manager role from being a manager at a bank in Ghana, but also be open-minded to getting some work experience along the way, whether it's study opportunities, whether it's graduate internships that get your feet in the door when it comes to, that transition from study to career when you move to study abroad. Now, use your support networks. A lot of people learn very late, normally at crisis points, that there are people there in these countries, okay, especially the main study abroad destinations, US, UK, Canada, that are there and could possibly support you or direct you to the right support. So your African student associations, usually they are hosting events, they are hosting speakers, they get sponsorship from Black at Facebook, Black at PwC, etc. And I've seen a lot of times when basically just by asking people, your fellow students can even keep pointing you to some of those networks that support students while you're studying abroad. So this is really important early on rather than at crisis period. Make sure you're reaching out to people, trying to build that network, go for networking events, as Meritza said, and meet people who can help open those doors for you, or even help find you funding if you needed any bridging funding to finish your course, for example. International student offices are also there to support you in that way. Career services are there to support you in that way. Your embassies actually they also network with a lot of corporates within your host countries and can also support you in that way. Most embassies have education desks. The Ghana one does. I think the Kenyan one does. Most embassies would have that, so make sure you have that in mind. And the final point is think of your contributions and ties back home. you know, yes, it's true that the world is your oyster and you can pursue personal and professional development elsewhere. But also, for the most part, you're moving because there's something extra that you can get that perhaps you weren't getting back home. Don't forget to always consider the ways in which these extras that you get could be brought back home while you're studying. Join presentations, mentor other students. If the British Council invites you, join their webinars to talk about Chevening Commonwealth. If Warwick comes to Ghana and you're abroad, go and share your experiences, right? It's really, really important, but also think of all the skills and networks that you've built. How do I bring it back to my country? How do I use it to develop my country? Then it brings your education and opportunities full circle, even if you decide to be domiciled elsewhere. So that's all for my presentation. I didn't want to focus on the negative realities, but rather how to make them positives. So hope this has been useful, and I'm happy to be contacted by anyone to provide any more support. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Papa. I think your presentation has been clear, precise, and especially, well, what I wanted probably one of the panelists to talk about is the transfer of credits, which you've touched on a little bit. So let's see what the participants are going to ask regarding that particular question. But also, most importantly, just share any links or any emails or how everyone can get to you if they need to in the chat so that we don't lose that. So our final panelist will be Rose. Rose, welcome. The floor is yours, and I hope you can give us all that you've got. And after Rose has shared her presentation, which is 10 minutes, I'm going to open the floor for questions, and I hope that we are able to ask the questions. Yeah, welcome, Rose.
Right, thanks, Sherine. And I think I either have like the simplest job or why is someone calling me when I just started speaking? Yeah, I was saying that I either have the simplest job or the hardest job speaking after very amazing speakers with nicer slides. I don't have any fancy slide, and probably maybe with more links to opportunities. But my name is Rose Kobusinge, and I'm a Ugandan, and good to see East Africa also represented in a way, because it seems to be a lot of West Africans. But nice to be here. And I cannot say enough to say that, the opportunities that everyone has shared, it all starts with you being prepared. And I think Papa just talked about that. You have to be prepared for these opportunities. And we're in a world where I think in the last 5 years, there was limited kind of like access to information for African young people, students, prospective students. But now we are seeing kind of like that revolution. More young people have access to internet. I mean, it's still a big challenge, but we're seeing that improve. We're seeing several career sites, opportunity trackers. I don't know if you are familiar with like Opportunity Desk, Opportunity Tracker, where they usually post opportunities for young people, scholarships, and lots of fellowships and even jobs. We're seeing that change. But I think for me, the question is, are we really prepared to grab these opportunities? Because, we are competing with everyone in the world or everyone in the continent if a scholarship or an opportunity or a vacancy is open for only like Africans, you're still competing at the African level. So you have to be ready and know that you're competing with very amazing people in the continent who have experience in internship, have worked, even like have big roles. But that doesn't mean that they will be the ones getting the opportunities. Sometimes it depends on how you express yourself, your vision, and what you really want to do. And a lot of speakers talked about this, like what is your dream or your reality? So how you put it on paper. And this is something I found quite different, that a lot of maybe people from Warwick and Southampton, Solent will be able to tell this. I've not reviewed any of the university applications, but how you express yourself is very, very powerful. The story you tell and how you connect that to the impact you want to make in your community and in the world is very important. So someone could have all the qualifications that are needed, but they don't put their story, whether that's a cover letter or personal statement, and they don't do that the right way or in a compelling way that shows the impact they want to make in their community, there are chances that you can beat them. So, and I also wanted to say, like, I think this event has focused on like abroad, as in abroad out of the continent, but we have to also know that there are several opportunities within the continent too. And we're seeing that. I was surprised when I went to Morocco, I think last year, not 2 years back, and I found some Ugandans there studying, and there are scholarships within the continent too. And I think that intra-African studying is becoming important too. And I think it is a point that sometimes we miss. So we come to these countries, we see how the education system is different, and maybe as people shared, you find the universities have more structures, better opportunities for students, but we'll just keep in that cycle where we all have to come to get better education. And I think that is something the universities, for instance, that presented today, but also us who have got the chance to study here, to be able to bring that connection back home. I remember I studied at Makerere in Uganda for my undergraduate. And I remember I used to see some of these lecturers who had studied in Norway, had studied in the UK, but when they come back, they go back into the same system of nothing changes. And I just kept wondering, like, why? Why did you get such level of access to resources, such level of teaching and education, but you come back home and you do business as usual? And actually, when I came to study the master's, because of course, before I didn't know how different the teaching is, I messaged those ones that I had contact with them, like, why did you teach us the way you did when you had access to such level of teaching, right? And so right now, as you introduced me initially, that I recently founded Vital Crest Foundation, and we have a program we are trying to build at the moment, where one like part of it is career and mentorship, which involves like all those things everyone has talked about, like improving your writing, submitting, and access to opportunities and resources, but also like that career guidance, because a lot of ours apply to universities just because we want to go, just leave and just come to a different country. And we want to kind of like change that in a way, to have a more purpose-driven application when we're applying. And we're also trying to come up with a program that kind of like, maybe change is a big word, but tries to bring in the teachers, the lecturers in our African universities to kind of also connect with the lecturers in Europe, in the US and stuff, and kind of like have those exchanges and see, probably online best because we don't have any resources to do like physical exchanges, but try to see how those changes come into our teaching back in the continent. And then also have the student aspect, because sometimes it takes longer to change the system. So just get the students from different universities in our continent, here in Coventry, in Europe, and bring them together to see how they can have shared learning, and how like our students back home can be more proactive and learn for themselves, but also connect with the global opportunities. And previous speakers talked about, the community. By the way, I think we over-romanticize studying abroad sometimes. I think that's my feeling. We forget some of the challenges that comes with, and I think we need to be honest about it. It's not all stars. It's not all glitters, There's some struggles that you go to being in a new place, new weather, new food, away from your family. Some of us, you came in the country, you didn't know anyone, you had no friends. And that is why I think things like student how they call them. What am I thinking about student council? Like clubs are very important and societies to engage in once you've made it here. You know, I'm just speaking out of my head. Let me see if I had any notes. Oh, the other thing I really wanted to say is like, you know, I think this is either it was Sherine or Hilda who talked about you know, being ambassadors of our continent, and I think that is a big responsibility. That when you get the chance and come to study in a university here, just know people will determine probably the whole continent, but what you do and how you treat people. So, and because I work on migration and migration justice, I just want to emphasize the visa situation. You have to make sure you have, sometimes you have conditions. For instance, a PhD student, international student, I don't like it, but you have to go and keep going to the university and, I don't know, showing them that you're still a student and you're addressing all the visa requirements. You have to do that. At the same time, like once you overstay your visa or you do something dodgy, it means you're reducing the opportunities for other people in the continent or even from your country. And we're seeing that happen, for instance, in the US, where they're saying, oh, countries, so including my own country, they overstay their visa. So we are reducing, you know, visas and stuff. So I think whereas sometimes we want to stay, I think it's good we start finding opportunities if you really want to stay in the right way rather than overstay visas. And maybe lastly is you have, once you come to study abroad, you have access to people, diverse, dynamic people. And I think for me, that is, I find the most important thing is you're studying with people from different backgrounds, different experiences, different access to spaces and resources. And it's those friendships that actually matter the most, and how you use them after you've left. And, I mean, how you use them while you're still there and after you've left. And I think that's the biggest one, I would say. And just following on that, like also you get access to, for me, for instance, I come from an environmental background and I was a climate activist back home before then, but I needed to study a little bit more about climate and humanitarian work. So that's how I came to Oxford on a scholarship and did a master's in climate change and environmental change and management. And it opened up a whole world for me to further my activism and my advocacy into environmental policy and gender advocacy. And I now had access to resources in a way like Oxford was supportive. You want to go to a conference, they'll provide some resources for you. And then even after that, the master's I did, the master's research I did, I made sure it was very strategic, that it got me in touch with the right people I wanted to get in touch with. And from then, I've been all over the world doing my advocacy. Tomorrow, I'm heading to the Africa Climate Summit. And I've been to different high-level events within the UN, but also trying to make sure the impact goes back to my community, delivering projects, mobilizing young people, mobilizing communities, and trying to bridge that gap. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ross. That was very insightful, and I am very keen on us going back to the grassroots and doing the right thing, because, like you said when you started, is that information has not been there for a while, and now we have access to that information. What are we doing about it? So, like Hilda said, we need to continue being ambassadors for the continent. We can't move and not move as well. If that makes sense. But now I will move to the questions. One of our panelists, Caroline, has left. She has left a short message. She said that she has left the email, and she also says that she will be in South Africa, Kenya, Ghana, Nigeria, Mauritius this autumn, and is happy to meet with people. So you can email her, and you can always meet when she is in one of those countries. Now we have, I think Rose will also be leaving very soon. I don't know if Rose is open to questions, but I'm going to just send out the first question. I see Meritza is still around. I'm going to just send out the first question, and Belinda is asking, how do you deal with the rejections? How do you deal with the rejection after applying to numerous schools? I think you all should probably decide who takes it. So I'm going just to read through the questions. So how do you deal with rejection after applying to numerous schools? Another question was, there is always self-funding. I think we've talked about funding in general, like scholarships and all, but there's also young people who come from, probably they've saved their money or they come from well-off backgrounds, and they don't know how to get to, do their masters or their undergraduate in, the first world countries. How are they able to do this? Are there options for self-funding, and then you get to the institution and there's an internal scholarship you can apply to supplement what you have? So do we know any institutions that can do this? Another one is, I want us to a little bit give more information on transfer of credits, because I know this has also been a conversation that ASU is going to be, training young people on, and just to have, basic information of what that means and how that can be done, and probably somebody giving as an example of that. And the last question that I think I have over here is, are there universities that do not require English tests? So yeah. Ross, you're the one on my screen, so you'll start and then Meritza will go second.
Yes, thanks. I'll just go and then leave because I have a meeting studying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the question on rejection, I think that's really an important question. I remember like a few weeks ago, I was looking at someone on LinkedIn who has been documenting all the applications they had made, and they had documented 127 opportunities, like jobs, scholarships, and everything they had applied for in the last like 1 year, and they got their 128th. And that's the one they got. So rejection is real, and I think you have to take it like it's not anything against you. It's just like so many other people applying for the same opportunity. Imagine like you're applying for a scholarship at Oxford and you have thousands and tens of thousands of people applying for the same scholarship. So it's not that you're not good enough. It's just that sometimes it's because someone put in an application that talked maybe better about them, not necessarily that they're better than you, or even if they are, like, I don't know. And I think for my master's, I was kind of lucky that I just applied and got like I just applied once and I got like two scholarships and I had to choose which one to take. But I think I've had other rejections in whether it's attend like applying for a funding to attend like a conference or it's for a grant opportunity. So I I think I reached a point where that when you get rejections, it has become norm of like, oh yeah, that's fine. Go on next, apply for something else. And when they provide feedback of what went wrong in your application, take that feedback positively and try to improve your application for the next opportunity. But also, I think Kojo talked about this, like reach out to people who have gone through that, reach out to students who are currently doing something similar like the one you want or in the university that you want. There's so many good people, most of the people actually good people out there. You can reach out to someone on LinkedIn and they'll respond. And even actually professors and teach lecturers, especially at PhD level, for instance, like sometimes you don't have to just wait for a call for application. Reach out to a professor that is doing something you want to do in the university, start a conversation, have a 10 minutes call. A lot of them will actually accept and express your interest, learn about what they're doing and see how you can fit in and what you can add to them. Then the question on self-funding, I think a lot of universities provide like there are more opportunities for self-funded education than scholarship. I don't know if I got the question well, but I also give you an example. I had a friend who was studying at Oxford in Uganda, like from Uganda, and he actually got like government sponsored him from Uganda, but not like direct sponsorship, but they allowed him to continue with his contract. So he was using his payments on his job in Uganda to pay for his education at Oxford. So I think a lot of universities, it's easier to get private funded than scholarship funded. I don't know if I got that question very well. What was the last? I think I'll let the credits to someone else. What was the other question? I can just talk about in a few.
I think it was transfer of credits. Are there universities that do not require English test?
Oh, English test. That's really an interesting one. So my experience with English test was really interesting, and I had an English test waiver. Like I wrote to them, and I think that's what I find really, especially for the UK. I can't speak for other universities, but for other universities in other countries. But for the UK, I think it depends on the institutions. Some institutions are really understanding. Like sometimes it's just a matter of like writing to them and telling them, hey, this is the situation. And they'll as long as you're telling the truth. So don't take advantage of that and in a bad way. So I wrote to them. I had just finished my undergraduate. I was only volunteering. So I didn't have money to do those tests and they're quite expensive. So I wrote to them, I'm like, hey guys, here's the thing. I'm in a Commonwealth country. I've studied English for all my life, and I even don't have money to actually apply for this. So I'm asking for a waiver. And I got it. I didn't have to do the English waiver. So sometimes just try out things, but a lot of universities still need you to do it, and you have to really prepare for it and all that. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Rose. We do not want to hold you back. If there are any questions, you've left your LinkedIn account and people are able to follow you and leave comments or just DM you so that the conversation can continue just away from this place. So thank you very much. And I hope to also get to see the kind of work that you do. So have a good meeting. Yes, Meritza, I think you had your hand up.
Yes, I really wanted to piggyback off what Rose had mentioned in regards to rejection. Not all universities will offer feedback, but in the fair chance where a university is offering the feedback, I always ask students to ask more detailed questions and follow-up questions. But Papa Kojo said something really important earlier on, and something I also mentioned, is that when you put yourself in the networking environment, what it does is it actually gives you the opportunity to ask individuals that are working at universities or that have experience with certain universities to ask what the application criteria is. So then it limits the opportunity of having your application rejected. Or if it does get rejected, you could always reach out to this person that you've networked or connected with and say, hey, I've had my application rejected. I applied for this course with you guys. Could you give me some pointers, or can you give me some guidance on how to make it better? Can I resubmit? And just because you get rejected on the first round does not mean that you can't resubmit or tweak your application and then resubmit again. So I always think that I love the quote, where it says rejection is not the end. It's like a redirection or something like this. I am paraphrasing it. Rejection is redirection. And I always think, well, if you're rejected on the first round, there's always kind of very different ways, especially if it's a university. There's so many different ways that you can kind of work around that rejection. And one of them is by reaching out to someone like myself or like a Caroline, who can then go through the admissions process again, or look over your application and say, hey, do this. Maybe you've not given this much information, give more detail on this, and so forth and so on. So that's one area. The other thing I wanted to touch on is the credit transfer section that we talked about earlier, or that you mentioned. A lot of universities now are starting to have collaborative partnerships with institutions, whether that be in Africa or in other places. And what they tend to do is they tend to map the curriculum. And so then it allows students to have credit transfers directly into certain subject areas. I'll use a really good example. We currently have a partnership with a university in Kenya, and the students that study on that course don't have to provide English language requirement. They can just come in and they'll credits are transferable directly into our second year of studies. So those are kind of opportunities. And often enough, if you are a student coming from another university and you think, oh, maybe there's something here, you could always be the one who proposes a collaboration as well. So I mean, there's so many different ways now where universities are working together to tap into students in Africa. So that's one. And then English language requirements. Our school needs English language requirements, but we do have waivers for certain parts of the world. So, for example, in West Africa, we will accept the WAYAC or WASI, I think that's what they call them in Ghana. So we'll accept that as an English language waiver. And then in Kenya, we'll accept the KCSE. And then in Southern Africa, we'll accept their version of that. So some countries do have waivers, but whereas other countries might not. But again, it's to go back to what Rose said. If there are opportunities for you to lobby, then you can, especially if you know that you are a high caliber student.
Thank you very much, Meritza, for making it very clear. I think you've given an example of Kenya where you mentioned KCSE. I think I also used that to get my my undergraduate. So yeah, so I think we need to just network and keep asking these questions. And sometimes I know for the participants or like people who've never done their application, sometimes these particular people get a lot of emails. I think just bother them with more emails. The worst thing is that they stop responding, but most of the time, if you bother them, they'll just be like, let me do it and get done with it. And sometimes you get a very good relationship and you get out of that. So just keep sending those emails and don't get tired of doing that.
Yes, because at the end of the day, you're chasing your dream and you want to get to where that person is. And I was like that, I am such a nuisance. When I want something, I'm always trying to find a way to see if I can be at the same place, whatever it may be, just to make sure that I am getting to what I need. Because at the end of the day, you have to be relentless about your goals.
Yes, thank you very much, Meritza. Papa, I don't know if you have any comments. If not, I'll.
Well, I think Meritza and Rose have said everything. I mean, the last thing I will add is definitely contact alumni. If you are not on LinkedIn, get on LinkedIn. It's the easiest way to find. Go to the search box and then search for Southampton, Solent, or Warwick, or Oxford, whichever target school, and then click on people. The admissions people will come up, past students will come up. Make sure that you literally bother them with your messages. You find that there may be people who are willing to actually look at your whole application from A to Z, including CV, everything. And you'd get sort of very good help that way.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Papa. And thank you very much to everyone who's attended this call. It was very difficult for me to keep on cutting the panelists because I know this is very important to us. And for the people, I just wanted the panelists to share everything that they have because it's not every day that we get experts, speak to us and share this kind of information without payment or stuff like that, because information is bound and information is a currency, and if we are able to get this information for free, I just wanted young people in the continent to get this information without me saying it's enough. So thank you so much to our incredible panelists for sharing your journeys and insights in absentia as well, on solutions with such honesty and giving your experiences. And I want to thank the audience and the participants for your engagements, your questions, and your solidarity in this conversation, especially Hilda, who's been in contact with me as well to just make sure that everything is flowing very well. Well, today we are just reminded that youth mobility is not just about moving across borders. It's about access, it's about dignity, the visa we talked about, the power of education in transforming lives and communities. And we see how the people from the continent are actually leading in some of these institutions that we want to be part of or join. So I think this is a very good opportunity for us as young people of the continent to be part of this conversation. But the thing is, this dialogue does not end on this call. And I know the All African Students Union is having an ongoing commitment where they have this mentorship group that is going to be coming up, and advocacy sessions. And these platforms are supposed to be used to continue to learn from each other, shaping policies and creating practical support systems for students so that we can navigate the journey of international education. So as we leave here today, I want to encourage us to take these lessons with us, whether it's through advocacy, mentorship, or just following up on your fellow students' journey. Just, reach out to someone who is in a different country. Even internal scholarships or internal studying, internally in terms of like the country where you are, is still important. The most important thing is that we are educated and we have higher education with us. So on behalf of the All African Students Union, thank you very much for being part of this important conversation, and let's keep this conversation moving. Let's ensure that the dreams of the African youth continue to thrive wherever we are, in Europe, in Africa, and in America as well. Yeah, so as see Meritza's hand is up, so you will speak and then I will hand it over to Hilda.
Yes, I'm sorry. I just had someone dropped a question about how do we break the stereotype regarding international students, and I really wanted to answer that because I think it's a really, really important question to ask. And originally, I come from Namibia, and one thing I've learned about this world is that other people's ideas of you and stereotypes of you are not your concern. You shouldn't worry about that because that's not what you're there to do. If you're going to you should you be a little bit aware of them and maybe adapt and learn the culture and assimilate a little bit? Yes, but do not lose yourself trying to fit into a shoe that doesn't fit you. You're there for a reason, and I think it's important to hold on to your why, which is what Papa mentioned earlier. So when you go into these spaces, you use and leverage your background in those spaces because you're coming in with new thoughts and new ideas. So someone's stereotype of you as an international student is not your concern. Do not worry yourself about that. And if people get hung up on those things, then perhaps those are not the rooms that you need to be in. You're there to do something and achieve something. So do not focus your attention on other people's ideas and stereotypes of who you are. I just wanted to put that out there because I think sometimes we get hung up on stereotypes and we let them hold us back.
Thank you very much. I don't know what happened to my video, but I'm not able to see myself. So to everyone who attended this meeting, thank you very much. And I hope you have a good evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you are. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Just a quick one before everyone goes. Can we? Shinri, are you able to just take screenshots? I don't know. Just
yes. You cannot
yes.
turn on the biggest
Yes.
thing.
So if you can all turn your video and give us a beautiful smile, you can do that, and then we'll take a free shot. Thank you, Shinri. When you are done, let us know.
Me?
Yeah,
Okay,
Sherine, we can see your face.
My face is not here. I don't know what happened to my computer, but it's not here. So I'll just be smiling behind this, whatever is happening over here. Okay, I'm here.
Okay, so it's okay. You can see now. You can see now, Sherine. Okay, so I'll be taking it in 3, 2, 1. Okay, I have everyone. Oh, just a minute. Okay, I have everyone now.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much, Sherine. Thank you to my wonderful speakers. It's been very insightful, and I'll get in touch. God bless you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.